I'm Nicholas Corey, and this is the first of my tabletop RPG designer proof of concept videos. I haven't really come up with a cool title for it yet, but anyway, I'm working on a tabletop RPG system currently, and I'm going to do a series of videos that kind of showcase where I'm at, what I'm working on, that sort of thing. And this is the first video, so we're just going to cover the absolute basics, which are the task resolution system for the game, the core mechanics, the very heart of the game. Two things to keep in mind. One, this is a proof of concept video, so a lot of things will probably change as this game goes on and as it moves on through these videos and even off of these videos. And two is that we're only covering that core mechanic of the game, so we're going to look at my prototype for the character sheet. A lot of the stuff on there we're not even going to talk about. But let's do that. Let's take a look at this character sheet here. So this is the starter character sheet that I have. Not much going on with it, really. As you can see, there's not a whole lot of information on here, even that I've filled in. We just basically have the 5 attributes across the top here, and then skills for each attribute, the 3 traits per character, and then the talents for each trait. And then the most interesting part, and the part we're going to focus on today, are the dice pools. Now, every character has a core dice pool and a bonus dice pool, and every character will be using these to some extent. Some characters will also be using the power dice pool, but we're not going to get into that now. Also, the core dice pool is something that's available to everybody, like from the get-go. Immediately after the character is created, they have a core dice pool of 5 six-sided dice. Not using any special dice at all. They don't have any special symbols. It's just 5 dice numbered 1 through 6. This represents what the character can do within a scene or within a round of combat, and it also represents the character's health. As the character takes damage, these dice will be reduced until the character is knocked out or is dying. So you have these 5 dice, and basically how it goes is when you decide you want to take an action, you look at all the dice you have available, which currently we have 5. You choose how many dice you want to devote to that specific action. So let's say we were doing 2 dice. So we would take these 2 dice and we would roll these and we would add the value of whatever attribute and or skills would be pertinent to that task. You can choose 1 attribute and 1 skill. They have to be the same. So for instance, if we were attacking with our 2-handed sword, we would add our might attribute and our 2-handed sword skill. So we would roll our 2 dice and add 4, 3 plus 1. You couldn't do like the 2-handed sword plus your personality. That wouldn't make any sense. So what you do is you roll the dice. We got a total of 9. Adding our 4 gets us at 13. You decide whether that succeeds or losses, so the GM will tell you whether you succeed or fail at the test. And then any dice that you roll immediately go to your spent dice pile. And there they stay until the end of the scene, or if it's combat, until the end of the round. Then they go back to your dice pool, and you can do it again. So obviously, if you want to do 1 action per scene and you want it to be, really effective, whoops, I just dropped that one, then you're going to roll 5 dice, and you're going to roll all 5 of them, and you're going to add whatever you need to. That's the basic mechanic, is that you roll the dice, you spend them, you put them there, that sort of thing. Certain talents that characters have cost dice. They say spend 2 dice to do something, spend 3 dice to do something, that sort of thing. What that means is that, let's say that after we rolled those 2 for our attack, and we have 3 left over, and let's say this attack was a hit, that 14 with our 2-handed sword was a success. We hit and we did damage. This character has a talent called Heavy Strike, which is spend 3, I wrote shorthand here, spend 3 dice, increase your damage by 1. We have 3 extra dice here. If I know there's nothing else I want to do with those dice for the rest of the round, I could spend these dice, because they're still available, these are not available, I could spend them by just moving them to the spent pile to do 1 more damage over what I would normally do. So that's how you use dice for the most part. Now let's say that I was defending. You'd do the same thing. You'd take whatever dice you have available. Well, let's go with this example still. So all my dice are spent. They're all in the spent pile. I have 0 dice in my core pool. And now I'm getting attacked. Like, I hit the enemy for +1 damage, but I didn't kill it. So now he's attacking me. I have no dice with which to roll defense. So his attack is probably going to hit. When it hits, it deals damage. So let's say this enemy does 2 damage. Well, what you would normally do is take 2 dice from your core pool and move them to your damage bar. However, we don't have any dice in our core pool, so we would take 2 from our spent pool and move them up into our damage bar. So that's 2 of 5 spots on our damage bar filled up. So our character took 2 damage. So now, at the end of the round, when we refresh our dice, we only refresh the 3 from the spent pile, and the 2 from the 2 that are damaged stay there. Our character's potential has been lessened somewhat. Now, a lot of you are probably thinking, well, that sucks. As you take damage, things are going to get harder and harder to do. This is true. I mean, that's kind of how it works. When you get hurt, you're less effective in the immediate future. Like, immediately after an injury, it's harder for you to do certain things. So that's kind of why this works. However, there are ways to offset this. If we look at another talent that this character has, he has the tough trait, and his talent, which I have it, I'm sorry, Reckless. I don't have the shorthand written, but he has the trait Reckless, and the talent is Fueled by Pain. A lot of these titles may change. So what Fueled by Pain does is every time this character takes damage, he receives bonus dice. So, before we refreshed, when I received 2 damage, I would gain 2 new dice in my bonus pool. Now this is different than the core pool in that these do not represent health or strain. All they represent is extra action that your character can take. Extra effort you can put into an action. So now, during the next round, if I wanted to attack again, and I wanted to make sure I hit, I could roll all 5 of these dice, whoop, and boom, suddenly I have a very effective attack. And I'm glad this actually worked out like this. So I have this attack that hits super hard, and this is actually an example of what we would call a critical hit. Critical success, rather. Anytime you roll multiple 6s on a test, no matter how many 6s there are, whenever you roll multiple 6s, it counts as a critical success. So not only did we succeed, like if that 14 succeeded before, then this 23 definitely succeeds. So not only did we succeed, but for every additional 6 after the first one, we gain another bonus die. So we do that. I can't spend any dice to increase damage, so I do my normal damage. But then I have this bonus die sitting here. So when the enemy attacks, I now have a die that I can spend on defense. Voila. And then when it refreshes, you count how many are in your damage, 1, 2. You move up to 5, so now we have a total of 5 in the core area of the character sheet. Can't have more than that. And then, because these are bonus dice, they deteriorate over time, so we would actually get rid of 1 and move the other 2 back over to the bonus dice pool. And there we go. That's the basics of how the dice pool works. Another way to do it is, let's say we didn't have any dice, and we're like, 3 dice, that's not enough to get our character through this combat. You can exert your character, which is getting extra effort but at harm to yourself, and that's when you take a die from your core pool and move it to your strain bar. This is non-lethal damage. If your strain bar fills up, then your character will be knocked out. But when you do that, you gain 2 bonus dice. So you're getting a 1 to 2 advantage simply by doing 1 non-lethal damage to yourself. And not only that, but our character has the tough trait, and one of his traits is vigorous. And if we read the shorthand here, if you can make out what I'm writing, vigorous means whenever I exert, I get 3 bonus dice instead of 2. So a vigorous character takes 1 strain at will and gains 3 bonus dice. That's a 1 to 3 swing. That's huge. We went from having 3 dice available to having 5 dice available. However, now we've taken 3 total damage out of 5. So we're closer to being knocked out of combat. But that gives us more to play with as far as making tests, rolling dice, spending, that sort of thing. So that's the basics of the core mechanics in the dice pool system. Power dice are going to be similar. We'll have characters who have power dice. We'll have 5 latent power dice at their disposal, and they spend these only on their spells or magical powers or whatever sort of abilities those are. And then from there, they as they use their powers, their power drains, and then depending on the type of spellcaster or magic user they are, they can recover their drained power in different ways. Monks would meditate. Some characters have to recharge from magical items, that sort of thing. So that's the basics of it. that's pretty much all I'm going to cover in this video is the absolute basics and bare bones, but that's what I'm going for. So let's come back. Hi. That's the absolute basics of the core mechanics. I have more developed than that. Obviously, you saw traits and talents and skills and everything, and I'll go over those in a later video. But I wanted to show that dice pool mechanic, show how it works, and maybe even get some feedback, see what you think. I'm really excited about this. I love the chunky feel. I love the tactile elements of the game. I love being able to throw multiple dice and move dice around the character sheet. It gives this illusion of engagement. It makes you feel like you're more engaged in your character. The downside to this is that it means that you probably want a table to play on. It's not one of those games that you can have everybody sitting at a couch. It's not like Dread, where everybody can be sitting at a couch and you can have the game mechanic on its own table or surface. This is something you're going to want to have in front of you. Now, obviously, the character sheet needs some work. There's setting information that I didn't even touch on because that's not the focus of this. The focus of this is simply game mechanics. But there you have it. The dice pools for my new RPG system in this RPG Designer Workshop Proof of Concept video. Let me know what you think. I'd be happy to hear your thoughts and your impressions. Thank you very much for watching, and I will catch you next time.